You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Since 2009, HRN podcasts have been exploring the wide world of food, beverage, and agriculture. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. We've been making cheese in Wisconsin since before we were even a state, which may be one reason why we win so many awards for it. It's what happens when a whole state dreams in cheese. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
We talk about food, we talk about music, with musical dudes. Finger on the pulse, snacky tunes.
Hello and welcome to Snacky Tunes. I'm your host, Darren Bresnitz. For our all-new episode today, we are in the D.C., Virginia metro area. First up, we're sitting down with co-owner and executive chef of Amma, Johanna Hellrigl. She talks about being born into the restaurant industry, her coming up and cooking through the DC scene, and how Italian love inspired her new restaurant. Then we head down to Virginia to hang out with Jeff and Jake of Illiterate Light, whose new album Arches will be out November 1st. They perform some live songs from the album, talk about the difference of their eating habits at home and recording in Hollywood, and how they brought the community into their new recording session. And if you can, please become a member to HRN. Sign up to keep up with all the news, exciting events, and benefits you get as being a community supporter. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy Snacky Tunes here on HRN.
Round and around the clock. Round and around the clock.
Johanna, welcome to Snacky Tunes. Thank you so much for making the time all the way from the nation's great capital, DC. Thanks for stopping by the show.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
Congratulations on your first aperitivo summer. We are now past Labor Day. I know the leaves are maybe turning, or the idea of leaves turning in DC is happening. How do you feel after a summer full of snacks and wine and spritzes?
I feel pretty good. I mean, we opened our restaurant Ama on June 4th. And so we made it through a summer, which in restaurant terms, 3 months. It's a big deal. And I feel like now the weather's like cooled down, and I'm excited to just bring a little bit of the fall out here. At Ama, we did a lot of food from Liguria, where my mom is from, for the summertime. And so I think now getting into the fall, we can get a little bit more into Alto Adige, which is South Tyrol, where my dad's from, and bring a little alpine love to the city. So I'm ready.
Little opera Italian, right?
Yeah, it's a little opera ski situation. I'm down. I'm really down. I wish I could make this into a lodge already.
Ooh, little chalet. It's always great when we talk to someone who is literally born into the business, such as yourself. Your family cooks, but your father also owned a legendary Midtown Italian restaurant. What was it like growing up in the restaurant, and when did you realize that not every kid could go back into a giant kitchen and pull snacks from a walk-in?
I know, right? I look back and I'm like, that's not normal.
You didn't have a giant prosciutto that you could slice off after school? It seems odd.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I did that probably looking back were not helpful for the restaurant.
Sure.
So sorry.
But you're precocious. Who cares, right?
I mean, it was a really interesting experience. The early parts of it, I absolutely don't remember because I was literally born into the restaurant, and it already existed since 1986. Both my parents were involved. And then when my dad passed away, my mom ended up taking over, which essentially meant that a lot of my childhood was spent in the restaurant, and the chefs in the kitchen, in the pastry section, were all kind of raising me. So it was a really cool experience. I think Saturdays I would get dressed up in like a little party dress, and I'd have to go out into the dining room and say hi to guests. And then I had a little chef's coat, which I'm actually looking at right now in the restaurant. And, I would get the opportunity to be in the pastry section. I remember always seeing like the radishes that were perfectly sliced, and they were like pink and white. And so I always thought it would like taste like candy. And I would like sneak into the garde manger section, and I would take one, and I'd be like, oh, what is this? Because it was so bitter. And so I just feel like, experiences like that, even the cookie trays that they would have, I would like take one cookie from each of the different trays thinking that nobody would notice. And clearly that's not how it works.
That's not how it works. It was already prepped for service.
Yep, exactly. And I just would go over and be like, oh, if I take one of them, nobody will notice. So, experiences like that, I think just being around a lot of adults from a young age, I think allowed me to be part of adult conversations, allowed me to figure out, the manners, the hospitality, all the things that kind of help you become an adult. And so I'm really grateful for the experience, but at the time, I don't think I appreciated it. I think I also had resentment towards it. And it took me a while to realize the experiences I had then would now influence me as, I have my own restaurant. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's so amazing what is foisted upon us as children that we roll our eyes at, then you just wind up going back to that as an adult. You almost in a one-to-one type of recreation. In addition to being in the restaurant, you also got to go back to Italy a lot, to one of my favorite places, the Ligurian coast, and most specifically Portofino. I still dream of, what was the bakery? Pacifico Canale, which, my Italian is terrible. But I just remember
panificio. Yeah, there's amazing panifici all over Liguria, and I think that's like the best part. I mean, I grew up with Fior di Ponte, which is in Santa Margherita, which is right next to Portofino, and when I was building the focaccia program for Ama, I was like, how do I make this the most authentic, the one that I grew up with? And so I was very lucky that Alberto and his wife that own it, they, let me come into the bakery, and, over there it's like 90-degree heat, and he's like basically in like a white tank top and like a pair of like, it looked like literally like white boxer shorts. And he's just like rolling focaccia because there's no air conditioning. And he's like,
I love it.
Not probably going to be the same temperatures when you start making it over there. And I'm like, yeah, just a little different. But, those experiences of growing up with, between Liguria and Alto Adige, my sister and my brother are in Alto Adige, where my dad's from. And then my mom's region is Liguria. I mean, yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And not a lot of people know about Liguria and Alto Adige as much as they know about, Tuscany and Piemonte and Rome, etc.
Which is so crazy because people know pesto. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like they just don't know where it comes from.
They don't. And I think, the hard thing that I've faced, I think, opening up a restaurant in DC is like, it's a really cosmopolitan city.
Sure.
So people are very well traveled, and some people have it and they're like, I've been there and I have this nostalgia for this experience. And then, there's a lot of people who are like, this is what I know of Italian and this is not that. And
Sure.
I'm surprised by what you're doing here. And, some people are willing to explore and try new things. And some people are like, no, I want my grandma's meatballs and that's it.
So. You better go to the region that your grandma was from, because if you get out of that region in Italy, good luck on a wine out of region, a cheese out of region, a meat out of region. Speaking of DC, you wind up going to DC from New York for school, not going straight to the restaurant business. What drew you to the city, and how fast did you get right back into the restaurant industry once you got to town?
I think I chose going to GW in the Elliott School because I was really into international affairs. I really wanted to save the world, and especially in women's rights. So I was like super into politics, women ascending into leadership roles, really trying to get, into that nonprofit world, et cetera. So GW was like the perfect place to be in the city. I'd already gone to boarding school, and in boarding school, you're kind of like in your own little college campus, just with lots more rules. So I was like ready for the big city, especially growing up, going to New York and everything. And then I never left, which,
Sure.
kind of like now I look at it and I'm like, I've been here since 2007, which is a long time, and therefore gives away slightly my age. But there was these aspects of what I was doing in international affairs, because I started working for a women's democracy network and really getting to work with women that were in 61 countries, and we were building NGOs locally. And I was like helping women get into parliament, and then women in parliament into caucuses. And like, it was such cool work. And like, it was amazing to just be able to create these beautiful connections with women that I still have connections with today. But the more I traveled, especially working with women in politics, the more I realized that a lot of women were ascending into leadership roles, but still had their same roles that they had to do at home.
Sure.
And so they were taking me to their home. They were having me be part of their food. Mm-hmm. They were cooking with me. They were getting me to experience their culture. And growing up in such a strict Italian household, I had really just been exposed to, the ingredients that I had known. And so all of a sudden my palate was just getting like bombarded with these amazing, amazing flavors.
Amazing.
And I would come home and just recreate everything. I became obsessed. Like, it was definitely an obsession to cook for my friends, to cook anything that I had tasted, maybe with recipes, without recipes. And I think that drove me into like, why am I so obsessed with the food more than the politics, which, I mean, rightfully so. But there was something out there that, made me maybe feel connected to my dad, who I lost at a young age. Just wanted to like really experience these flavors and really figure out a way to be able to do this maybe more full time. And so I pretty much cashed out my 403B and, asked the chef if I could go stage in his kitchen. And I did every position possible, from dishwasher to garde-manger to expo, anything I could do, helped him with the bakery, etc.
And where was this?
It was in Easton, Maryland. His name was Chef Jordan Lloyd. He owned a place called the Bartlett Pear Inn. And, he had come from a great pedigree and accolades of, restaurants in New York, et cetera. And it was this beautiful restaurant that cooked seasonally. He used a lot of local produce. And I just really fell in love with his philosophy and wanted to have him tell me, like, do I have it? Do I not have it? Like, do you think I should do this? Do you think I should go to culinary school? And he was very kind, and he really took care of me and really showed me a lot of things. And at the end was just like, you've got it, keep going. And
amazing.
The rest is history.
And so did you go straight into the DC scene? What was, knowing what the DC scene restaurant has gone through the last few years, it's been pretty exciting. I think it's really found its foothold. What do you remember that time? What drew you back in? What stories can you share from that era of who was cooking and where?
Yeah, the industry is like one of those things that once you get into it, like once you, meet somebody who knows someone and then you're kind of like in the scene, everyone is so welcoming. I feel like I've seen a couple other cities where maybe it's a little bit more competitive or a little bit more cutthroat. And I feel like DC is such a community-based industry. Like everyone is so kind to each other, and all of the connections I was making was leading to different opportunities. So whether I was doing pop-ups and that led to another pop-up, whether I met somebody who then let me, become part of their restaurant group, there was just all of these connections that were being made and this community being built. And, it was a really fun time. Like it was kind of that pivotal point where we were starting to get a little bit of recognition in the city. And so I feel like I've been part of that movement over the last 8 years where, DC has really started to become one in itself, and I've really been enjoying being part of that. And hopefully, at some point also helping more women ascend into leadership roles in the restaurant industry as well.
Amazing. Let's take a quick musical break. We come back. I want to talk about your pop-up, the eventual opening of Ama, and what one can expect on the playlist on let's say lazy Saturday, Sunday afternoon at the restaurant. We have a song from the archives here on Snacky Tunes on HRN.
I'll
Welcome back to Snacky Tunes. We are chatting with Johanna Hellrigl, owner and chef at Amma in Washington, D.C. So you've come back to D.C., the scene's super supportive, and I know you're going into kitchens and you're working and you're like putting in your hours, earning your stripes and things like that. But then you start to think about doing a pop-up. Where did that idea come from? And why did you want to do that instead of just doing maybe double shifts at restaurants?
Yeah, I mean, I was the executive chef of a couple of restaurants, but at the same time, I also felt like I wanted people to really experience what I had to offer, right? Like I had made money for other people, but I also wanted to be able to figure out how to do that for myself. And so there were these opportunities to cross collaborate with different local artists, different local venues, and be able to figure out how to create some really cool pop-ups. And so I did a couple different ones. We called it Johanna's Table. And it was a lot of fun because I was able to just kind of do what, ever I kind of inspired myself to do. So, I mean, we had we did a Sri Lankan pop-up for one thing. We did a Burmese pop-up, and then we did an adult carnival, which was very fun.
Amazing.
I just wanted, like, everything I've always done is based off of community, right? I've always wanted to create community. I really love making connections, being able to feel that sense of community. And maybe it's because I'm an only child. I don't know. There was something about just wanting to create environments that were supportive in that sense. And so some of the other pop-ups I did were celebrating Alto Adige and then celebrating Liguria. And, when you do those bigger dinners, especially, you get people sitting all together from all walks of life, and they buy these tickets, they're sitting together. And it's just so interesting what can come out of that. And I really just felt like the pop-ups were a really great way to showcase that and also bring that sense of community. And when I look at it now, I think they were a great precursor for what I was trying to do at Amma. Because even when I cooked at the James Beard House, I did a tribute to Amma and what I wanted to open, even if it was in 2018. And you look at it now, and I opened in 2024. I was doing this beautiful walkthrough of Alto Adige and my father's heritage. And it was, just this great tribute to what I'm doing now. But at the time, I kept having these setbacks on leases and spaces and investment and, a lot of no's, a lot of doors closed in my face for sure. Ugh. More rejection than I had ever faced, as a single girl in the city. So it was like a lot of just
You're
things.
Like,
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is what it feels like. Okay. But no, just, all joking aside, it was really hard. It was really hard to get a restaurant off the ground, especially as a female chef. And even though I had this background in democracy building, project management, like I used to run $1.1 million grants for the U.S. government. Like I had an understanding of budgets. I understood
more than most people in the restaurant industry.
And, not to be rude about it, but there's, a lot of chefs that are creatives and then they get into business with their business partner who's more of the money person. And then the two of them clash. The chef doesn't trust that person's got their best interest, The story goes on. And then somehow they break up and all that stuff. And it's just these constant vicious cycles that happen, or restaurateurs that have these beautiful creative ideas as chefs, but then they don't know how to actually make it financially feasible and sustainable, and they end up closing the restaurant. And so, there's a lot of people who continue to get opportunities after failed restaurants. And I think if you've learned how to learn from your mistakes, that's great. We should all get second chances. But at that time, I kept getting no's, and I've never even had one restaurant that was my own, yet I had made money for other people in their restaurants. And so having like a proven track record and not being able to get people to invest in that or to be able to give me that opportunity, it was really tough. But at the same time, I kept persevering. And I think that looking back at it, the version I open now is the one that I'm so proud of. And it's more than just a restaurant. It's like the principles we stand for at Amma, the nourishment, all of the the efforts I'm making to create a toxic-free restaurant,
Sure.
which definitely feels more LA than DC
Yeah.
in some of my efforts. But that is stuff that I wouldn't have done if I opened in 2018, 2019, 2020, when I had, originally anticipated opening. And so you look back and you're like, that patience taught me everything. That rejection taught me everything. And those hard moments where it's hard to see the light, like the light comes. Sitting in my restaurant right now, talking to you.
Yeah. It's
looking
beautiful.
around at pieces of furniture from my dad's, hotel he opened in like 1969, sitting in this restaurant. I mean, it's priceless, just to be able to have that.
I mean, it's so beautiful. And I think you tap into something that is an issue these days where people don't want to wait. And they're like, hey, I was here for 6 months and I learned everything and I want to go do this, or I don't have the right partner and it didn't work out. You picked a great partner. You're actually married to your business partner. So there's a lot of investment there. When did you two decide, and I know you had previous restaurants and I know that you went through a lot during COVID, but when did you decide that it was time to open Ama? I know that we're sitting here now and you sort of jumped to like the end result, but like, what was the road to it? How did you get there?
Yeah, the interesting part with my husband is that, when I was doing these pop-ups, he had started to come to some of the events that I was doing. And that's actually how we really met. And he and his brother own like this industry watering hole place called Chaplin's. And that was always a fun time to be able to meet afterwards. And, we became very good friends. And then at some point we were like, well, why are we talking about, combining food and beverage until 4 a.m. on the phone? Like, this is not what you normally do unless you're like in high school, you know what I mean? So there was this aspect of like, we were just so creatively inspired by each other and we wanted to do things together. And so we just kept trying to build, the vision of Ama together. He helped me with the beverages at the James Beard House. We did a lot of different things together. And then at some point we got the opportunity to be able to be part of that hotel opening that we did. And that was great because we were able to do his beverage program, my food program, and then be able to kind of like play off of each other and do it respectfully on somebody else's dime to see that we can work together, because not every couple as husband and wife can do that. But I think, he's in his beverage lane, I'm in my food lane, and the two of us can, use ingredients together. Like I would make homemade cheese and he would use the whey in one of his cocktails to make it creamy. And like we would do R&D, research together, and we would just be able to do these amazing creations that I think became better because we did them together than if we did it individually. And so I think that's where we really were like, Ama has to happen. But at the same time, pandemic life, the hotel and the restaurant we were opening closed 2 weeks before the pandemic, after we had just trained all of our staff and we'd come up with this great menu. And then when we came back to open it, it was never the version we were going to open. And that was so sad because there was these beautiful creative ideas that,
of course,
at that point, the decision-making from the higher ups were like, we need, butts in seat. We need to get people coming into the space, and we have to do things a little bit more easy and approachable because that's kind of what everybody needed at that time. And while we did a great job with that hotel project, it just was very clear to us that, we were ready to lead our own teams. Like when you're in a hotel business, you don't have the control to affect change.
It's different.
Even if you're in a leadership position. And that becomes really hard because you are the voice for your employees, but at the same time, you don't have enough of a voice to be able to make the changes necessary.
It's like, you're right. I hear you, but corporate says no dice.
Yeah. And so it was a great experience, good life lessons, but we were like so ready to do what we needed to do. So I got an opportunity to work in high-end food services for tech companies for a couple years. That was great because I was in like more of a director of operations role. And so I was able to actually like cross over into front of the house and give myself more operational experience, because I had already done that loosely for a couple of restaurants where I was like more of a DO role or a culinary director. But I really wanted more experience of like being able to see a business from the whole perspective.
Oh, I love that.
And then in that time, while Micah was still working in restaurants and doing everything that he was doing, we got a great opportunity with Greystar, which is our landlord, to be able to get into this space. And, you know, at that point I had nothing to lose. I was like jaded from the pandemic.
Sure.
I was like, I'm in a great Monday through Friday role. I love, you know, kind of what I'm doing here. But I walked into the space and I was like, this is it. It's a beautiful horizontal space. It's all windows. It's across from, you know, a Whole Foods. It's saturated with residential neighborhood residents. And
I love that.
There was just a void in this neighborhood. And the void, I always like to build concepts off of voids. I feel like you can be like, oh, my ego says I want to do this. But I feel like if you build a business off of voids and you're like, what is missing?
What's needed by the community?
Supply and demand, right? So there was a lack of a neighborhood kind of restaurant here. There was a lack of Italian. There was a lack of gelato or ice cream. There was just a need for a spot that could be daytime aperitivo dinner. And so that was, you know, a 2-year construction lease process to get to where we are now.
And you're sitting in your dream, full of love, full of light, with your husband, with the community.
Yeah. The restaurant's name is called Ama because it is coming from a poem called Ama Faccio Che Vuoi, which is one of my favorite poems. And it really talks about love and do what you will. And if you do things from the root of love, only that will transpire. And so we tried to hold on to that with everything we did. And I feel so grateful because the team that we have here now, you know, 3 months later, celebrating that accomplishment of being open 3 months, you know, we have the same staff that we started with. And I feel so grateful for just having such amazing individuals to bring Ama to life with, because it's not just one person, it's all of us collectively combined.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So you're in your dream space with your husband, you got your toddler running around. It's full of people. Everything's firing on all cylinders. What's on the stereo? Hit me what's going on the playlist.
Okay, so I'm very much into a little bit more of the Italian classics.
Love it.
So like I love songs from like Paolo Conte, Via Con Me. You know, there's a little bit of Gianni Nannini, who I really do love. She's just a badass. Can I say that word on this podcast?
You can say whatever you want.
And, you know, I think there's a couple of just like those local, like those artists that I grew up with, whether it was like Eros Ramazzotti or, you know, Umberto Tozzi, like there's Zucchero, like there's a couple of these like little old school classics of Italians that I really do like playing as well. So we have a great mix. We work with Gravy.
Oh, I love Gravy. I got to reach out to them. They're really,
I love them. They're great.
Really amazing.
And they were able to take like the songs that, you know, are probably more for me than anyone. But
it's your name on the lease. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you know, at the same time, there's a lot of people eating here and they're like, what is this song? But they were able to figure out a way to like play a good mix of everything. Yeah. And so I feel like they've been able to capture it. The music ends up, you know, changing often. So there's a little bit of like that flexibility, but I feel grateful to have like Gravy's opportunity to get our music to be the best it can be.
Amazing. Well, listen, congratulations. If people want to swing in, because, man, I love dining in the East Coast in the fall and the winter. Like DC, Philly, New York, just it's cold, big windows, warm drinks. How can they eat at Ama? How can they follow along, see what you guys are cooking for the season?
Yeah, so we're open right now Tuesday through Saturday. We hope to open to 7 days soon. But essentially you can come in for the cafe. We have like the bancone, which is basically like a leaning pastry case and bancone from the outside. You can come get a coffee, cornetto, cappuccino, whatever makes you happy during the day. We open at 8 a.m. And then you can come for aperitivo hour, which starts at 3 o'clock. We give you a little stuzzichini, and then 5 o'clock is dinner time. And I would highly recommend coming for all three experiences. We're very fortunate to have regulars that do that.
Wow. Okay, you took the question out of my mouth. I was going to say, does anyone roll from breakfast to dinner? But yeah, I guess.
If I could say one last thing, it's like, I built this restaurant for the community and the people. And if you actually build restaurants off of like the customer lifetime value and the repeat guest, the relationships that you create with those people are things that will take you for the rest of your life. I still have some of the same clients I had 8 years ago, but the neighborhood, what you get is like people who feel like they're feeling so good while they're at AMA. But the trick is that they feel good afterwards because of the ingredients and the sourcing. Like we have 0 microplastics. We use Celtic sea salt. Like everything that we put into our food makes you feel good afterwards. That makes you feel like you could come back the next day. And that's, I think, sometimes where, my background as an integrative nutritionist, like those are the things that I think get people to come back for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So that's why I was saying maybe a little bit more LA in that sense, but I hope DC's ready for it and that we can make that impact with AMA.
Well, I hope so too. And it sounds like you built it with the best intentions. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you, Tucker and Becca PR, for helping set this up. We have a song from the archives. Yes. Thank you, Tucker. Deeply appreciate it. Great communicator. Really, really helped me keep the eye on the ball and things like that. But song from the archives and then a live performance here on Snacky Tunes on HRN.
That's how it starts. We go back to your house. You check the charts and try to figure it out. And if it's crowded, all the better, because we know we're gonna be up late. But if you're worried about the weather, then you picked the wrong place to stay. That's how it starts. And so it starts. You switch the engine on. We set controls to the heart of the sun. One of the ways that we show our age. And if the sun comes up, then I still don't want to stagger home. Then it's the memories of our betters that are keeping us on our feet. You spent the first 5 years trying to get with the plan, and the next 5 years trying to be with your friends again. You're taking 45 turns just as fast as you can. Yeah, I know it gets tired, but it's better when we pretend. There comes a part, the way it does in bad films. Except the part where the moral kicks in. And when we're running out of the drugs and the conversation's winding away, I wouldn't trade one stupid decision for another 5 years of life. You drop the first 10 years just as fast as you can, and the next 10 people are trying to be polite. We're going 45 days in the middle of France. Yeah, I know it gets tired. Where are your friends tonight? All right, if you're home, we're gonna sing this together. Here we go, like this. Whoa, 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 oh, 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 whoa, 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 oh, oh, whoa, 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 won't you tell the truth? This could be the last time. So here we go. Like a sails force into the night. And if I made a fool, if I made a fool, if I made a fool on the road, there's always this. And if I'm sued into submission, I could still come home to this. And with a face like a dad and a laughable stand, you can sleep on the plane or refuse to set. When you're drunk and the kids looking possible, you think over and over on final weekend. Oh, with the trip and the plan come apart in your head. You can turn on yourself, you ridiculous clown. You forget what you meant when you read what you said, but you knew you were tired. But where are your friends tonight? Where are your friends tonight? Where are your friends tonight? If I could see all my friends tonight, if I could see all my friends tonight, then I would see all my friends tonight. If I could see all my friends tonight.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. There's a reason when you think of Wisconsin, you think cheese. Cheese is a huge part of Wisconsin's history and future. In Wisconsin, the state of cheese, the tradition of cheese-making excellence began 180 years ago, before Wisconsin was recognized as a state. Immigrants traveled to settle in this lush green hills of Wisconsin, bringing their cheese-making traditions with them. These storied skills, combined with the freshest milk available, created a cheesemaking culture that is uniquely Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 1,200 cheesemakers, many of whom are third and fourth generation, continue to pass on old world traditions while adopting modern innovations in cheesemaking craftsmanship. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
Jeff and Jake, welcome to Snacky Tunes. Thank you for the quick studio tour. It's a very, very awesome spot, and congratulations on the new album coming out. I can't wait to hear it.
Thanks. Yeah, we're really excited for it. We're bringing it to life right now, rehearsing, because we kind of take a little bit of a different approach. This is actually where we recorded the record, but when we go into the studio, it's very much we're layering and overdubbing things and sort of building out a little bit of a universe. And then when we go play live, we strip everything back and just focus on sort of the bare essentials of the song. So that's what we're doing right now, is we're kind of reinterpreting the record into our live show and bringing it to life. It's
great to have two versions of it. It's always nice instead of going to see someone and hearing. I mean, look, there is a skill in playing the album exactly the way it was produced live, but it's nice to get a little something extra when you go out and see an artist play.
we always bring a little something extra. It feels like every night the songs kind of take a little bit of a different form, and we prefer it that way. We like to keep those two universes, a little bit separate.
I mean, I have to imagine, since you're stripping them down and it's just the two of you, that gives you more freedom to experiment instead of saying, oh, we got to trigger this loop, we got to play to this click track, this is already pre-recorded.
Yeah, so that's true. Our whole approach live is everything that we do is to uplift the human element. What can Jeff and I do, just the two of us on stage? So there's no backing track, there's no click track. It's really to put forward the human experience of, sometimes it's amazing, sometimes I drop a stick and the whole song changes because now I'm playing with one stick. Jeff breaks a string. It's all about whatever happens on stage is supposed to happen. We roll with it and we have fun with it. But it really does change the arrangement of our songs because we're songwriters. We like to think when we record in a bigger way, different instrumentation, different sounds. But there's something very, very punk and very exciting about just like when a band is on stage, I want to know where every sound is coming from. I want to see what's happening and I want to feel that energy. Yeah,
I absolutely appreciate that when I see a band and I know what they're doing instead of a 3-piece and I go, this sounds like there's 6 people on stage. Where is this coming from? Speaking of the human element and sort of the punk spirit, I got into you guys when the first album came out, and it actually was a bit of a soundtrack during the pandemic, especially I Want to Leave America and especially Existential Crisis, which took on a bit of a prescient quality. As we were all sitting at home, what did you feel like having that first album come out a couple months before the world completely changed?
It was difficult, I think, to say the least. We had spent a couple years recording that record. A lot of it, we self-funded the whole record.
Sure.
We were kind of back and forth between the studio and being on the road. And we recorded most of it in Richmond. We cut a little bit in Nashville as well, but a lot of it we did in Richmond, Virginia. And we weren't necessarily expecting to score a record deal out of it. We've always been very independent minded, but we ended up, scoring a record label deal for that album, which was great. It came out through Atlantic Records. We've always felt, pretty positive about our relationship with them. But it was kind of like a launch point, putting that album out at the end of 2019 and 2020. Of course, like by sort of mid-February of 2020, there was we were in Seattle when COVID was starting to break, which is sort of where it
it came in,
originated in the US. So it was like kind of like the whole year based around promoting that album, touring, a lot of great festivals and fun opportunities that we'd been working towards for about 5 years kind of sort of vanished in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
But it's kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, like we had no control over that. It was like you can sit around and like kind of sulk or just move on. And so when we found out that we weren't really going to hit the road for like a year and a half, we just kind of went into writing mode and just started working on the next album. And we also, built the studio that we're in right now. And so
awesome.
we wanted to stay productive and just keep moving forward. And that's exactly what we did. But yeah, it's like the first album came out and it didn't really, we did do like an album release tour, but it didn't really get the same push.
No long tail. Exactly.
Yeah. And so, it's been a little bit of a funky ride in that regard, but here we are. This is our fourth. Arches is our fourth release in under 2 years. This will be our second record, and we've done 2 EPs as well. So
it's prolific. It's good.
Our whole MO has been let's just keep pushing forward.
Speaking of the new album Arches, you recorded it in the home studio and then also in Hollywood. And I know those are 2 different vibes, and we can get into that. But What actually I want to know about is the food setup in each of the locations.
Nice.
Wow.
Hit me with the home studio Virginia culinary vibe, and then what you're ordering to the Sunset Sound studio in Hollywood.
Yeah, definitely very different vibes as far as what the studios, contain, the gear that we have and the people that are floating around. And then also on the food scene, different vibes for sure. But we're super fortunate. Most people listening probably have never heard of our town, Harrisonburg, Virginia. And just to kind of place it for some folks, we are in the heart of the Shenandoah Valley, which runs from kind of Winchester, Virginia, down through Roanoke, Virginia. And it's, I would say probably 100 miles, 120 miles long is how long the valley is. And at any given point, it's about 40 miles wide. And so we are right dead center in the middle of all of that. It's a town called Harrisonburg. We're about 2 hours from Washington, D.C. And we can see West Virginia about 10 miles to our west. And so,
Gorgeous.
so we're very much in the heart of Appalachia here. And it's a very fun, small, hippie college town. And I won't go too long for this, but there's an amazing food scene here because there are a ton of, it's actually, for being such a small town of only 50,000 people, it's extremely diverse. And so there's 55 languages that the kids speak at the local high school where I substitute taught for about 3 years.
It's amazing.
Part of that, the history there is that there's a big Mennonite population here in Harrisonburg, which are a pacifist congregation sect of Christianity, and they do a lot of refugee and war resettlement. And so we have a ton of people coming from sort of war-torn countries and countries where they've experienced, economic turmoil and difficulty. And Harrisonburg is sort of a little bit of a safe haven for a lot of people. And so with that comes amazing food. So when we're tracking here in Harrisonburg, there's several spots that we like to go to. Probably one of our favorite is a spot called Indian American Cafe, which is actually Nepalese food. It's great Indian and exactly. Yeah, it's just awesome. So the chicken sog there is amazing. It's makes up like 50% of the meals we eat here. The paneer sog is also really, really killer. A lot of these spots are walking distance from the studio, so we could take a break, walk down, have this super authentic, Nepalese Indian food, and then we'll either eat there or come back. There's several other spots. There's a spot called Tacos El Primo, which was the first taco truck that started here in Harrisonburg in 2000. There's probably 10 awesome taco trucks. This was the first one, 2008. Super awesome, authentic Mexican food. You can get an al pastor burrito that will fill you for the whole day for $8.
And be right there.
Yeah, it's a game changer. The next spot is a spot called Babylon, which is like Middle Eastern cuisine, amazing like beef shawarma and gyros, and they started adding in French fries and stuff like that. But it's like, again, it's another spot where it's like $6.99 for a meal that'll fill you all day and is extremely authentic, super, super yummy. And then you can score some baklava as well for a little dessert. And then on top of that, we do have sort of classic beer and burger joints that we like to, jump around to, as well as for years, Jake and I worked on a farm outside of town here, and we vended at the local farmers market.
Oh, that's so cool.
So we know a lot of the local farmers and people that are making, produce around here. And so there's a great sort of local food scene. And within that, we've got our own little local co-op, which is like a miniature Whole Foods. And like, I mean, this is a little bit of a cop out for this question, but like hitting the salad bar and the hot bar there, which we just did 10 minutes ago, is like, it's
no problem there. No problem there.
It's all a lot of that food is coming from within 15 miles of here. Glendor beef, really grade A, like grass-fed beef. And so So we have, and that's just kind of scratching the surface. I mean, I love the local food scene here in Harrison.
That's amazing. It sounds like I need to get down there and eat some of that food.
And I'll say LA, we had some good meals out there, but there's definitely a budgeting concern when
you don't have to tell me, man. Every time I go, wow, $30 for a sandwich. Cool.
Yeah. So like it was awesome to be like, so we recorded at Sunset Sound. It was the Hollywood Boulevard. It was amazing. But yeah, ordering lunch was always just sort of like, just kind of close your eyes and say yes to whatever the first thing on the menu was at the spot we chose. And I mean, it was great food, but it's a bit more of a blur. Whereas our hometown, we've got a lot of pride here.
We had food runners. And so the honest answer, like every time the food was delivered, we were very happy with what we were eating, but it was typically like hand the food runner our credit card, be like, hey, just get like 5 orders of the first thing on the menu from like a great spot. And then they'd come back and be like, it's a $200 bill. It was just pretty steep, but the food was great. I will say one night after we finished at the studio, we went out to there was a killer sort of like Mexican taco truck. It wasn't even a taco truck. It was like they set up for the night. It was a Tuesday night.
Oh yeah. Ubiquitous all around town with the Al Pastor and everything.
Yeah.
Just right on the sidewalk in front of a grocery store kind of.
Yeah.
And cool.
We got one over here in Altadena at the corner of Woodbury and Fair Oaks. And I hit it last night.
Nice.
Fresh corn tortillas pressed right there. Yeah.
So we were very fortunate to be munching on that, but we were kind of, when we were out in LA, we were definitely a little bit on a budget. I think if we weren't like getting a food runner, we were kind of chilling on some PB&Js and just keeping it pretty tight.
Let me tell you, man, I live in LA and there's always a budget. Because you blink and you're like, what did I just get for lunch and how much did I spend? All right, let's get into the first song. First one we have is Payphone, which I believe is the album's opening track. What's the quick story behind it?
This is a song that is kind of a story between two people. There's a both fictional characters, but there's a woman named Big Red, and she's sort of a little bit of like a motherly figure, comforting figure to the main character of the song, the protagonist, who's just sort of down on his luck and trying to figure out if he's going to call it quits or keep moving forward. And the song is a phone call between these two characters, and it keeps dropping because it's done on a payphone. And so every time it drops, he can't call her back. And he kind of leads him into these states of freaking out, but then she calls back. And so it's really a long conversation between the two characters.
Amazing. Well, here we go. Illiterate Light live on Stacky Tunes. Here's Payphone on HRN.
Right. much I can't live with my mistakes. I've tried and I'm turning into rust. Now I'm going door to door with no idea what I'm looking for. I'm always down, always pick me up. Let it ride, oh yeah, let it ride. It's gonna be all right. What are your pen? And my foot on the pedal. Lost and broken. And my foot on the pedal. Call from a payphone. Call from a payphone. Can't call you back. Only one I trust. Call from a payphone. Call from a payphone. Can't call you back. Only one I trust. Call from a payphone. Call from a payphone. Can't call you back. Only one I trust.
Welcome back to Snacky Tunes. We are here with Jeff and Jake of Illiterate Light, whose new album Arches is coming out in November 1st, correct?
That's right.
That's it.
And you got to work with, I'll say legendary, Joe Ciccarelli, who co-produced it with you. And for those who don't know, Strokes, Beck, U2. What was it like to work with someone who had such a hand in so many iconic albums, especially since you had put out, 2 albums, EPs before this? How did he change your perspective?
It's a cool question because, so Jeff and I are not new to the studio. We've worked with some amazing other producers, other engineers. But when we got the opportunity to work with Joe, it was an immediate yes, how do we make it work conversation. And a lot of what I took out of it was, just like the amount of trust that we had in his decision making, and just like, all right, here's the songs. We've done our part. We know what we want. Joe, we're passing that over to you. And like really early on, before we had even figured out, where we were going to record, how we were going to record, he hit us back immediately with notes on some of the demos we sent over, thoughts, how we could change them if we were going to record them. It was all pretty standard feedback as far as what I would expect, but there was just a real level of confidence and excitement that when I think of like a big legendary producer, I don't know, maybe it's just in my head, but it's the fact that he took the time to really go deep with our demos, to do a lot of pre-production, to talk us through where what was good about him and what needed improvement. That was really cool early on. And then when that meant when we got in the studio, we all had a similar vision of, all right, these are the things that we're going to alter to get the best end product. And it became collaborative in that way. But I'd even say in a lot of ways, it gave me a sense of calm to just be like, all right, I'm just going to I'm going to play the drums the best I possibly can. I'm going to sing these harmonies the best I possibly can. My job is pretty simple, to do my thing. And I know there's somebody I really trust who's watching out for every little, best take, or this is actually right and wrong. So that was really cool for me.
Did he give you a certain sort of freedom? Because you guys have played within different types of genres, and there's different sounds even across the releases you had and the live versus the studio recording. Did having someone like that back you up and believe in you allow a little bit more creative freedom and to trust your process?
Yeah, for sure. And he was also selective. Like Jake was saying, like we had sent, probably 6 demos over, and he had notes on everything.
Sure.
It was really thorough. And And like you said, our sound kind of ranges in genre. Some stuff is more alternative rock and sort of heavy rock. And then other stuff is a little more sort of indie leaning, whatever that even means, like sort of jangly or, you know, and so we were kind of trusting what he was drawn to. And one thing that we've always been a little bit like cognizant of is just like, we've never really wanted to repeat the like sort of the White Stripes, like Black Keys sort of thing. Like
duo, it's kind
of been done. And so we've always tried to, and for the record, we're big fans of the White Stripes. And so it's like, we've just always wanted to sort of do something a little different though. And so that's why Jake stands up. That's why I play bass with my foot. That's why genre wise, we just kind of live some more psychedelic stuff as well. But anyways, Joe was also really hip to that as well. And was like, kind of one of the songs that we recorded with him, All the Stars Are Burning Out, which we're going to play today, is very much more like nostalgic, sort of 90s throwback, almost even kind of has some like Smashing Pumpkins vibes. And so, it gave us a lot of freedom to just sort of like, you know, trust his perspective. And I don't think we can say enough positive stuff about Joe. It was great. You know, the second we got there, like there wasn't really any small talk. We'd kind of done that ahead of time,
which is great.
We were getting sounds.
When the meter's running on the studio,
we were getting sounds within 20 minutes. You know, it was just like, and you know, we rolled up. You know, set up some. Everything was already set up. You know, is that he's very professional in that way. People think that, like, of course that would be the case, but like, no. You could burn 6 hours just, you know, like pissing away your time. And so like we rolled up and it was just really efficient, really pro, and just like he sort of leveled us up in a way that we really loved.
I love it. All right, let's get into the next track. Dead Nettles. What's the story behind it?
Nettles are there's a few types of nettles. People might know stinging nettles.
Shout out. Yep.
Shout out to stinging nettles, which might kind of scratch your legs while you're out on a hike.
Good tea.
Yeah, exactly. Or you can dry it and make tea, which is what we do here at my house. And there's also a common weed in Virginia called red dead nettles, and they grow all around the studio here. And so I see them all the time. And so that name is always on the tip of my tongue, is Dead Nettles. And this is a song that the title of the song and the topic of the song essentially have no connection whatsoever. The topic of the song is really just about hating your job. It's kind of that simple. But I've always wanted to call a song Dead Nettles. And for one reason, I think they just energetically match with each other.
Amazing. Well, here we go. Illiterate Light playing Dead Nettles live here on Snacky Tunes on HRN.
Got a new job and it's already dry. Breaking my back and I'm buried alive. Didn't wanna look in your eye. Got a new job and it's already dry. It's the morning drive. It's the way you say goodbye. It's the highway jet. Baby, here I am. It's the car breakdown. It's the way you need it now. It's the open road that I'll never know. It's the stay inside, watch the day turn into night. It's the almost free, it's the death of me. Yeah, it's the endless doubt, soundtrack to burning out. Got a new job and it's already dry. I'm breaking my back and I'm buried alive. Didn't wanna look in your eye. Got a new job and it's already dry. It's the game in town. It's the way you stick it out. It's my broken brain. I've really gone insane. Missed 4 more years and then I'm out of here. Got a new job and it's already dry. Breaking my back and I'm buried alive. Didn't wanna look in your eye. Got a new job and it's already dry. I can't take conversation never dies. Looking forward, I can't take this torture. Got a new job and it's already dry. Breaking my back and I'm buried alive. Didn't wanna look in your eye. Got a new job and it's already dry.
Welcome back to Snacky Tunes. We are here with Jeff and Jake of Illiterate Light. And one of the things that I really liked about in reading the making of this album is how you invited the community in, both to the studio and to be involved, which I think is a really important thing, both to let the people who you see every day be a part of it, but in a way to keep you honest, because it's easy to bounce off to Hollywood, make an album, no one that you really know, not like in that close way, is around you, come back and they're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, for sure.
So what was that decision to let people who were probably going to give you maybe some truths that you didn't want to hear in the creative process into making of the album?
The spot the couch that we're sitting on right now, I remember, in fact, for the song Dead Nettles, we had a few, we've got a great music community and friends and peeps here in Harrisonburg. And we were recording that song, and we had a few of our friends, Jake Gollabart, Kyle Grimm, Travis Legg, come over. And when they rolled in, like a lot of times Jake and I are looking for energy to collaborate with. We're looking for somebody just to spice something up. Spice something up. And so they came over, and we were like, all right, you guys are going to produce this song. Like, here's the tune. We played it for them once or twice, and we did like 5 takes with them just sitting here on headphones, just like sort of yelling stuff during the process, just to kind of keep the song more fun and bouncy. And the version that we ended up going with was like the fastest we felt like we could possibly play the song without it being like completely ridiculous. And that was something that just kind of came about because they were just like, this is a cool song, it's a cool vibe, but like, just keep pushing it faster. And so we weren't necessarily getting criticism from them in a way that was like, hey, we don't really dig the vibe. We just kind of invited people into it. And we were just like, here, you take the wheel, like, how do you hear this one? And we did that for several moments. And the cool thing was we could track all day and then have people come over at night, smoke a joint or whatever and listen back to some playback and just kind of vibe out with everybody and see how it felt that way, which was really fun. I don't think we've been able to do enough of that on our last 2 records, certainly not on our second record, because we kind of were in lockdown mode when we recorded it. So nobody was involved.
The Zoom doesn't hit as hard as someone on the couch.
Yeah. So this was great. This just felt like more like, and I feel like everybody that's listened to it just kind of has the same feedback of, they're like, this sounds like you guys. Like, this is just your fingerprint and like you guys being you. And it's even on the songs where we went to LA, like, I don't think that we lost the essence of what our band sounds like.
I love that.
I think one of my favorite collaboration moments was actually is the first time that my wife got to appear on one of our recordings. Both Jeff and I have amazing wives and very talented musicians and writers in their own sense. But we were finishing up a song called No Way Out. That's towards the end of the album. It gets pretty heavy. And we had this moment where there's this drum break and then this silence. And we knew we wanted some like little hook there. And we had always joked about sort of like a like whisper scream. You don't have to sell me. 5th wave emo, 3rd wave emo. I'll eat it up all day. Yeah,
totally.
We, my wife was 8.5 months pregnant with my now son.
Congratulations!
And thank you so much. Yep. And he, we went and finished all the vocals except for that one little part. We went and grabbed Lainey and brought her into the studio. She had kind of heard the song, but not really. And we just said, when this drum part stops right here, I want you to whisper scream No Way Out. And that's pretty much the only direction we gave her. We played it. She did it immediately perfect. Like, we were like laughing and it was hilarious. And we're like, okay, double it.
She's also a huge Disturbed fan.
Yeah.
So she's
And she's like, are you guys done with me? I'm growing a foot today. Like, you guys cool? You good? Yeah.
Totally.
So yeah, that was just to have I think we're at the point where we love what we're doing. We love that we're in charge of the sounds of the way it all can unfold, and then to be able to laugh at ourselves enough to be like, yeah, let's bring my pregnant wife in to whisper scream this little moment. And it's, if you're just listening to the recording, it's this badass part, but just we were just laughing and going nuts on how funny it all was in the moment. And it was amazing.
I mean, if you had waited 6 to 9 months, you could have gotten your kid to scream on the track as well. So you guys are going to take this album out. You guys have a tour. I know you're coming to LA mid-October, and I got to ask, maybe not LA because we know it's expensive, but food spots, bars, places you want to hit when you get back on the road. Any things that come to mind that you're like, we're definitely hitting that when we get to this city?
It's funny because the West Coast is still sort of like new territory for us. So we certainly don't have like our tried and trues and our go-tos, I think the unfortunate answer is that so often we're so strapped for time that we live in the world of like Chipotle and Whole Foods where, it's like, that's the honest truth. But in light of that, I will say that in Seattle, like I love salmon. And so going to Pike Place Market,
you catch
around.
one? Have you ever caught a fish?
No, I haven't. I'd love to.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be a cool video. Yeah.
I do like that. Yeah, just me fishing, just ripping a salmon.
No. At Pike Place where they toss the fish.
Oh.
No, I didn't know about
that.
Well, I'll shoot you a video afterward.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You said, have I ever caught one? You're like, I was just
no. The legendary thing at Pike Place is that they throw fish at the fish market there.
Oh, here we go. See?
Here we
go.
go.
I got it on here.
Yeah.
All right, great. So yeah, I'm going to do that when we're in Seattle. That's going to be killer. And so I love salmon, so I'm definitely going there for some, like a salmon sandwich or something like that. Portland, I am excited for. Actually, there is a donut shop in Portland that I really dug. Last time we were there, we played Mississippi
Voodoo.
What is it?
Voodoo, I think.
There's a few of those, but this one was called I thought it was called Blue Star.
Oh yes, Blue Star. Yeah, Blue Star's fantastic. Yeah,
super good. I love donuts. Obviously, California, LA, we're definitely going to sneak in an In-N-Out burger for sure.
Got to.
And then we're going so many great places on this upcoming tour. Atlanta, we always get really great chicken. Nashville will be there next week. Definitely going for some fried chicken. And where else? Yeah, I mean, trying to think.
Well, I got a question for you. As a you know a lot more about LA. What should we hit while we're out there? Give us the spot.
All right. So for Mexican food, well, you're playing at the Troubadour. See, this is the issue with LA, is that I can make you a recommendation and say go to El Russo over on the east side, but you're not driving across town for that.
Right.
I mean, on the west side, I've been digging the Benjamin recently. That's more of a martini vibe as well. But Stir Crazy, if you guys are into natural wine or a little bite. And then Telegram Cafe is really nice for a coffee.
Hell yeah.
But to be honest, over there in that part of West Hollywood or Troubadour, there's going to be a taco stand that pops up, and there's going to be Al Pastor, and that's probably going to be the vibe in the move.
Say less. That's 9 times out of 10. That's going to be our go-to.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, guys, congratulations. The album is coming out November 1st, 30 Tigers. I know if you go to your website, you can pre-save it, so please do that, everyone listening. Want to get in one last song. What are we going to hear before you guys say goodbye?
It's a song called All the Stars Are Burning Out. and it's coming out the day that we play the Troubadour in early October. It is a song that we tracked in Hollywood at Sunset Sound. We had Sir Elton John cutting a song in the next studio over to us,
as one does.
Exactly, and then we tracked this one, and it's a song about going for it, not quitting.
Let's go. Well, guys, congratulations. Good luck on the road. Big shout out to Shane and the Syndicate for connecting us, and can't wait to hear the new album. See you guys live. Here we go. Illiterate Light. All the Stars Are Burning Out. Live on Snacky Tunes. We'll see you next time on HRN.
Big ideas, and I'm off into the night, driving around in circles, getting high. I mapped it out, a million papers on the floor. Nothing lasts forever anymore. Is it all over now? Is it all over now? All the stars are burning out. Am I the last one to find out? I'm always the last one to find out. Now it's getting late, and I think I'm going the wrong way. Nostalgic for that feeling that never came. No, I never saw it coming. Is it all over now? Is it all over now? All the stars are burning out. Am I the last one to find out? I'm always the last one to find out. Am I the last one to find out? I'm always the last one to find out. All the stars are burning out. I'm always the last one to find out. I'm always the last one to find out. Am I the last one to find out? I'm always the last one to find out. Am I the last one to find out? I'm always the last one to find out. Am I the last one to find out?
We talk about food, we talk about music with musical dudes. Finger on the pulse, snacky tunes.
Snacky Tunes is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.